Well, good afternoon, and welcome to each and every one of you to the White House Faith-Based and Community Initiative Roundtable. Each month, we host one of these roundtables focused on one of the most pressing human needs of our day. These have ranged from prisoner reentry, homelessness, addiction here in the U.S., to issues like malaria and HIV/AIDS abroad. And at the heart of these roundtables is a desire to explore and to honor and to grow innovative solutions to old problems. Now take just a moment to look around you. You're in very good company here. There are innovative public officials and administrators. There are some of America's most creative social entrepreneurs. There are writers and researchers who help us make sense of it all. I also suspect that there are members of the Green Party. There are some Republicans, some Democrats, probably some of you that wouldn't join a political party if you were paid to do so. But what we share is much greater than the differences. We share a burden. This burden has sadness, sometimes anger when we see a child with stick-thin arms and a distended belly. This burden makes us troubled that kids can't concentrate or play sports because they haven't been able to have breakfast. It bothers us that there are families that have plenty of calories but so little nutrition that they're headed for obesity and diabetes and cancer. We feel this burden together. But alongside the burden, we also feel hope. We share a confidence that if we bring together the best of American ingenuity with the best of American compassion, we can do better than we have in the past. The Faith-Based and Community Initiative affirms that government has a vital role to play in this. It has resources, it has expertise, it has a convening power that nothing else can match. But government also has weaknesses. It can be large and distant from the problems it's trying to address. It can be cold and bureaucratic and often doesn't know the inside of the neighborhood or the deepest needs that are there. It can keep doing the same things for years even if everyone on the ground knows that they're not working. And government can't love. That is why we believe that government will be more creative, more responsive, more effective, and more caring when it joins its strengths with the unique strengths of faith-based and other community groups that are on the front lines, groups that are rooted in the communities they serve, groups that draw upon scores of dedicated volunteers, groups that have a personal passion for the issues they address, groups that offer warm hands and a caring heart in ways that government simply isn't able to. That's the work of the Faith-Based and Community Initiative, to strengthen these organizations and to grow the ways that government can partner with them to address the great needs of our day. In contrast to government's natural tendency for the large, distant, bureaucratic program, the initiative consistently seeks to push in the opposite direction, reorienting government towards solutions that are rooted locally, that are personal, and that carry the touch of a neighbor serving neighbor. You see this in the President's Prisoner Reentry Initiative at the Department of Labor. That's where they're not only providing services through faith-based and community groups, but actually a community to which returning prisoners can go, and a mentor that will walk with them through this first months out. The people that participate in this program are actually returning to prison at rates less than half the national average. You see the same model in the Access to Recovery program at the Department of Health and Human Services, or the Homeless Veterans Grants and Per Diem program at VA, or the Supplemental Education Services at Department of Education. All across the federal government, this vision is taking root. We see it internationally, too, in programs like the President's Emergency Plan for AIDS Relief, PEPFAR. Many of you may not know, it's not only the largest investment by a single country in history in combating a single disease, but it's also an entirely new approach to addressing these things, focusing on the local, the personal touch. More than 80% of PEPFAR's partners are indigenous groups, and a large portion of these are faith-based groups because they're welcomed as equal allies and frontline allies in addressing the scourge of HIV/AIDS. Through the FBCI vision, the Faith-Based and Community Initiative vision, that's what we're seeking to do, to take this vision and make it real in every program of the federal government and increasingly at the state and local government as well. And that vision is why we are here today, to examine innovations that are making it happen here at the federal level, overseas, in small towns, in cities all across the country. you're a central part of it. So I want you to feel pride in that, in what you see today, in what you hear, and what you share, and what we can do together to continue this growth. Now, we're very privileged to have as our keynote speaker today Secretary Ed Schaefer, who's the 29th Secretary of the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And frankly, I could take the whole time that we've allotted for his remarks just going over his accomplishments, and I know you'd much rather hear him. So I'll just note that he has a very wide range of things that you'll see in the program, including serving 2 terms as governor of the great state of North Dakota. Most importantly, though, in addition to being a very respected national leader, I hear that he cares a great deal about this vision for bringing health and hope to our neighbors in need. Please welcome Secretary Schaefer.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jed. I appreciate the kind introduction and the short introduction. That was a good deal. Thank you all for joining us today, and I appreciate the warm welcome on this great day in America. It is always a good day in America, but boy, what a wonderful weather and nice spring day to walk in with, and I do appreciate the opportunity to get out of the USDA and get over here because it is wonderful. I'm sorry to be a little late. I know you held up the start here a little bit because we didn't get in, and I took a phone call right when I was walking out the door and shouldn't have. But, you know, when that happens, when you're running late, the people in front of you always drive the speed limit. But, you know, we're glad to be here, and you know, I'm pleased at these exciting times in agriculture to be heading up the United States Department of Agriculture as Secretary. It is indeed a privilege, and as I said in my my nomination, I guess it was in my Senate confirmation hearing, I didn't ever expect to do this. And Jed, I appreciate you mentioning the comment of have a long resume. Some people say that's because I, can never hold a job. But, I've had a wide variety of experience. I've done a lot of different things and just never planned on being in Washington. And as I mentioned in my comment, I'm sure that this is the sign of God, which is you will arrive at a place you never expected to go. But I'm here, and I'm certainly pleased to be here, and it's just been an exciting and thrilling times to see how USDA delivers the mission of caring for people across this country. I want to recognize Nancy Johnner, our Undersecretary for Food, Nutrition, and Consumer Services. I know she's going to be with us later. I think she's stuck on the Hill testifying right now. That hearing must have gone a little longer than we planned, but she will be with you as well. And Aaron White is with us. Aaron is our Director of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives at USDA and has helped coordinate our programs throughout the department and certainly coordinated a huge effort to get me here today, so we appreciate that. But really, as I look out, I see USDA staff from several of our missions, from Foreign Nutrition, from Foreign Agriculture Service, from Rural Development, from Food and Nutrition Services, and we appreciate you all being here and being a part of this. Since joining USDA, I'm sometimes asked by my old neighbors in North Dakota, what do you do there? It's kind of interesting. As noted, agriculture specific is only about 15% of the USDA budget. And I think that some people, certainly in my part of the country in North Dakota, have this perception that if you're not a farmer, USDA is irrelevant to your lives. But really that couldn't be further from the truth. When President Lincoln founded the USDA in 1862, he called it the People's Department. He called it that because he said it affects so many people's lives in so many different ways. And we know that our mission at USDA today, really the activities touch every person every day. And that's important for us. The vision holds true. Roughly 2/3 or $62 billion out of our $95 billion budget is set aside for nutrition and nutrition assistant programs. For instance, through our Food for Stocks program, we donate government-owned bulk commodities to food processors in exchange for processed goods that can be distributed through the food banks both here and abroad. Last year, we bartered over $50 million worth of commodities through this program, and we substantially increased the amount of food available for our nutrition assistance programs. Our women's, infants, and children's programs should benefit well over 8 million participants this year. Our school lunch program will provide meals for more than 32 million children, and our food stamp program is projected to reach 28 million people. We're working to ensure that everyone who are eligible for these programs know about the programs, can tie into them, know where to go and who to talk to. And we're making a special effort to reach out to the underserved populations like the elderly, the working poor, and the Hispanic community. One way we do this is providing free materials that community and faith-based organizations can use in your outreach efforts. And we've been seeing the results. Participation among those eligible to receive food stamps benefits have increased 11% between 2000 and 2005. We're trying to improve the way that food stamp program is being administered as well. USDA has proposed policy changes that will exclude retirement and college savings from eligibility determination to receive food stamps. We also proposed eliminating the limit for child care deductions and excluding income from combat pay when determining eligibility. Changes like this are critical in ensuring that low-income folks are not penalized with their savings. As we modernize this program, it's time to eliminate the word food stamps. The reality is that most participants today access their benefits with debit cards, not stamps or coupons. And I was pleased, as chairman of Western Governors, to lead that effort for the electronic benefits transfer cards in North Dakota, Wyoming, and Nevada, as we started that process to recognize this pathway to better usage, better delivery, certainly easier to use with less of the stigma of food stamps for using those swipe cards, and that'll move into computer-generated electronic cards as well, where we can direct purchases toward nutrition and important efforts in our delivery. We believe the new program should reflect a new program name should reflect its mission of education to increase in nutrition and improve the health of those in need. Beyond food stamps, USDA is working to modernize all of our nutrition programs. For example, we recently made changes in the WIC program in the food packages so that we can better deliver and address the nutritional needs of participants. We have commissioned the National Academy's Institute of Medicine to help bring school meals in line with the latest dietary guidelines. And that's just some of the progress that we're making here at home. Internationally, we have a number of successful initiatives that allow us to donate food to populations in need. Food for Progress donates our commodities to more than 1.4 million people in developing countries to support democracy and expansion of private enterprise. Food for Education helps support education, child development, and food security for nearly 1.5 million of the world's poorest children. Food for Peace provides commodity donations to the World Food Program and private organizations to supply food in response to war and natural disasters. But we believe that we can do more. So the administration proposed that up to 25% of our aid be made available to purchase food locally in cases of emergency. You know, we're getting some pushback on that issue because people are concerned and want to ensure that we're not cutting back on the amount that we purchase from U.S. producers for aid programs. And I can understand that, and I'm certainly a Buy America First person. I'm Buy America First person. Been hanging around the president too much here. But I understand that the You know, I understand the concern, but the majority of food aid is going to continue under the process and come from U.S. commodities. In fact, this would represent at most only half of 1% of the United States grain trade. We just think it's important to be able to purchase food locally. It helps out much needed supplies to get those in need faster and certainly more efficiently. In 2006, the United States contributed half of the food aid distributed in the world, helping to feed 70 million people in more than 50 countries. Still, as of 2003, there was a 32 million ton gap in the recommended nutritional requirements and the purchasing power of the world's poorest countries. That gap is 4 times more than what food aid is supplying today. At home, we can help provide food for 1 in every 5 Americans. That's still not enough. The latest data shows that more than 12 million households in the United States were food insecure at some point in their lives in 2006. That just means that these households were uncertain of having enough food to meet the basic needs of their family. So we value our partnerships with faith-based and community organizations that can help us reach these folks. USDA joined the Faith-Based and Community Initiative in 2002 and dedicated an office for these programs in 2003. Since that time, we've been working to coordinate our nutritional, our rural development programs, our foreign agriculture programs with the faith-based and community-based organizations. Your groups play a vital role in fighting hunger today because you know the clients. You're on the front lines. You're there. You know what they need. You know the neighborhoods, and you know the needs. I was thinking that, you know, as coming over here in the car, I'm a mechanic by nature. I grew up building car engines and things like that, and I like building things and getting moving parts to function and to create the whole message out there, or the whole piece of metal, or the whole engine, whatever you want. And I kind of am looking at the problem of hunger today a lot like that mechanical problem. You know, there are jobs that need big tools. When you start out, you've got to need a machine that creates metal parts, or you may have a welder to join pieces together, but you know, you start with the big picture here and big parts and big tools and start putting them together. And the government is good at providing the big tools. We create the public policy, we create the funding, we take your tax dollars away from you and generate the big picture items here. But we have the resources and the availability in government to look at those large impact items. But that's really not the only work that needs to be done. You need to fine-tune the workings of an engine, and that requires the small tools. You need to file down the gears, you need to tighten the bolts, you need to do that. You need kind of the precise tools, the precision tools to get it right and to get into the heart of the piece that makes it work. And that's what the faith-based and community organizations do. You provide that delicate work, the fine-tuning, the direct, detailed knowledge that makes all of the big picture stuff work. When President Bush established the Faith-Based and Community Initiative, he recognized that your groups are the ones on the front lines confronting the most pressing challenges in our society. And he realized that people are the ones that are most familiar with the problems and the ones to contact when those in need some allies to overcome their issues. The president believes that all groups, whether it's faith-based or secular, large or small, should be able to compete on a level playing field for the money. We shouldn't exclude groups, efforts, people who want to help from getting involved in the government programs. His innovative solution to addressing our society's trouble has proved to be tremendously successful. At the end of February, the White House issued a report on the progress of the Faith-Based and Community Initiative, aptly titled titled The Quiet Revolution. The report detailed the impacts of the faith-based and community initiatives over the last 7 years. By removing the barriers and by helping government to partner with small, community-oriented nonprofits, this program made a significant difference for people across this country. In 2006 alone, the government provided more than 18,000 awards to nonprofit organizations to help people in need. Those grants totaled nearly $15 billion. Now, I'm impressed with those kind of numbers, coming from a small state in North Dakota, $15 billion, and I'm proud that USDA has a part in that. One of our partners is the Aid for Friends in Philadelphia. This community organization provides meals and companionship to homebound seniors. Since partnering with the USDA through the Faith-Based and Community Initiative program, Aids for Friends has been able to expand an operation that now provides meals for 200 seniors in need. Internationally, we're enjoying similar success. World Vision, an international faith-based organization, has built and rehabilitated 9 schools in Afghanistan and helped feed 37,000 school children and 675 teachers. The Aga Khan Foundation, a non-denominational international development agency, has distributed 5,000 metric tons of non-fat dry milk donated to USDA to nearly 400 schools in Tajikistan and Afghanistan. Since the milk distribution began, teachers report better attendance, better attention in the school, improved test scores, and higher grades. And that's the power of food and what we deliver every day. Results like these speak for themselves. So we're continuing to reach out to the community and faith-based organizations because you've shown the ability to get it done. Many of our efforts are designed to build on that federal partnership with state and local organizations, building innovative support to help them reach out to clients and to improve operations. Volunteers and faith-based organizations are the lifeline of American food distribution system. Through partnerships with the organizations, the state agencies have distributed commodities in some of the poorest areas of our country, reducing food insecurity and hunger. These organizations also assist in promoting government nutrition assistance programs with eligible people who have not previously participated. In this day and age, no one should go hungry. Ensuring food security is a challenge that requires a combination of citizens, of the private sector, and of local, state, and federal governments. And USDA is committed to working with our community and faith-based partners until every household and family in the United States has the food that they need for an active and healthy life. And I want to thank you for your assistance in these efforts, and I look forward to the continued collaboration. In closing, I have a message. Yesterday, I had a chance to spend some time on interactive television with the USD employees in Iraq. We have agriculture advisors in Iraq. We're sending over more this year. They voluntarily spend a year there, away from their families, in dangerous situations, difficult times. As I spoke to them, they said, we have 3 messages that we want you to deliver. So every time you're talking to somebody, tell them this. So here you are, and here I am, and I'm going to deliver the message because I am so proud of them and the work they're doing that I promised them that I would pass along their comments. First, they wanted everybody to know that the military efforts there are making a difference. They are seeing the improvement of the security and safety in that country. They're able to get into areas they have never been able to do so before. They're moving freely in communities with families and working on agriculture issues. They also wanted you to know that the efforts of USDA are the same there as they are here every day. They're working with people to improve the communities. They're providing a food base for their country, for their neighborhoods, for their families. They're doing research. They're working in hatcheries and livestock facilities. They're helping plant crops. They're teaching them how to use new methods and work new machinery. And they're providing an opportunity to increase the second highest sector of the economy, which is agriculture. But the third thing they wanted me to tell you is that the farmers and ranchers over there are the same as you and I. They are people over there that are working hard. They know what they're doing in farming, but they're dealing with a system that's been neglected for 20 years. They're caring, they're honest, they're courteous, they're raising their families in often difficult situations, and they appreciate the help of the United States of America, and they want you to know that your tax dollars are being spent to do good things there. And what it reminded me of is as they talked about the impact of agriculture, they talked about the binding together of the families that they worked with their homes and their communities and their country. And isn't it great that it's food, once again, that's bringing together the humanity of this world. And that's what we do here every day in the U.S., and I'm proud of our efforts at USDA, and I want to thank you for your part in delivering food to the most needy people in this country. You've done a tremendous job, and I look forward to working with you to continue to do everything we can at USDA to deliver that mission of getting food to all the people who need it, who we're responsible for. And I'm confident that over the years we will find them, and we will deliver the food, and we will increase the health and the nutrition of the people of this country. Thank you.
Secretary Schaefer, there's probably one question that's just burning on everyone's mind. Is if you could be any tool in a mechanic shop, which tool would you be?
Man, that's a good one.
Maybe next time you speak to us, you could kind of elaborate on that one.
Well, off the cuff, I would say I would probably be a crescent wrench. You know, a crescent wrench is adjustable, it's flexible, it fits all sizes, and it does the job.
All right. Well, our next panel is going to look at food insecurity here at home. As the Secretary said, while most American families can't afford to put food on the table, somewhere around 1 in 10 experienced food insecurity, estimated in 2005. And to tackle this issue, since 2001, federal spending on hunger issues has increased by 59% since 2001. But we also know that hunger-related issues can't be resolved with the funding alone. It takes personal involvement. It takes a neighbor's touch. It takes someone who knows how to access the resources. It often takes life-changing choices. And that's why the vital partnerships with organizations like yours, with frontline groups, with groups that offer that personal engagement are so vital to making these dollars effective in what they do. So to lead this conversation, we're privileged to have Patricia Mancha, who's the head of an agency with a great name there at USDA. She's the acting director of the Office of Strategic Initiatives, Partnership, and Outreach at the USDA Food and Nutrition Services. Please welcome Patricia Mancha. Okay, come on up, panel.
Good afternoon, and first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming here and being a part of this discussion. I'd like to thank our panelists who came here from different parts of the United States. They are people who exemplify some of the dedication of individuals and organizations that are working to combat food insecurity throughout the United States. They're very distinguished, and I invite each of you to reference your programs, because there's a very complete biography for each of them. I'm not going to go through it, so that they can each get an opportunity to make their comments. First to speak is Pastor Joe Wingo. He represents Angel Food Ministries, an organization that he co-founded with his wife, Pastor Linda. And Pastor Joe?
Thank you. Patsy, I appreciate and thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. And let's get something out of the way right up front. You say that's an older guy with this nice looking suit on, your hair's too long. And but my father was a pastor, so I went to him one time. I said, Dad, can I use a car? And he said, son, if you'll go get a haircut. And I said, Daddy, Jesus had long hair. And he said, son, that's right. And he walked everywhere he went. And so let's lighten it up a little bit. And wasn't it wonderful to hear Mr. Secretary, what a wonderful man that we have placed in, he's been placed to take care of the USDA and overlook it. And I tell you what, I think the President and our Congress made a wonderful decision when they did that. I think it's very important that I do this, is that Patsy said I'm the co-founder of Angel Food. My family is with me. My wife, my high school sweetheart, since the 9th grade is with me, and my two sons, Wes and Andy, and my daughter-in-law, Lindsay. And we started Angel Food Ministries off of our back porch in Good Hope, Georgia. It's a little rural town about an hour east of Atlanta. And having grown up in Atlanta and during an era where times were tough and history does repeat itself. In fact, I'd like to mention this. My dad, as I said earlier, Dad passed away in '03, and he was 98 years old, and Dad went through the Great Depression. And my dad just encouraged me after we started Angel Food in '94 to stick with it, and I'll explain a little more about Angel Food in just a moment. But Dad said, son, is that prior to the Great Depression, is that the church was the most important part, or really one of the most important segments of our community, because it would serve as the lighthouse where people could come and get help, because there were no social programs back in that era. And of course, when the Depression hit and the hard times, there were no donation dollars or tithe money to give. And so thank God for the government to step in with President Roosevelt and the wonderful programs that he enacted to save our country. And Dad said, son, you're going to find that history will repeat itself as we have downturn in the economic times. He said that, and also the wonderful government, what they stepped in with all the trillions of dollars that's been spent on food and social programs, we still have our social ills. But Christ himself said that the poor would always be among us. So I think that, thank God for our food banks and our initiatives that have taken place through the years. But you know what, I think it's very important, as Mr. Secretary said, we all got to work together, because this is a wonderful country. We are still the most fabulous country on the face of this earth. We are a country that was founded because we help each other, and I think that's very important that we keep that in mind. But back to Angel Food Ministries, we started in 1994 off of our back porch in our rural community. We fed 34 families. I wanted to do something a little bit different because our factories were closing in the South at a rapid pace, and families were thrown out of work. And in the South, I'm only going to speak for the South because that's the only place I've ever lived, and a lot of pride in the South. And we didn't want to go stand in lines and get handouts and whatnot, and I knew that. And so I said, you know, if I could just get a little help here, we'd start a program. So we charged a little bit of money, and because I knew if I could sell more food, the volume side of it, I could get better buys. So we started, and we were so proud that we fed 34 families. I wound up with about 82 cents a box, more than I felt like I should have charged for. So I asked God the Father, I said, Lord, what should I do with this? And he said, son, from this point forward, I'm going to be sending churches to you to build this program. I thought, I'm on my back porch now, so you can imagine, like, well, where are they? And so what I did, I rounded that up to $1, and from that point forward, every box of food that was sold through our ministry, I donated $1 back to the churches or the nonprofit that would come alongside of us and help us. I'm proud to report to you that today we have now placed back in our churches across America, which is a little over 4,000 strong across 35 states. We have now put a little over $10 million back in benevolent funds with our program. So for about $30 a box, we can give you about $60 worth of groceries. That's just the average that we use. And we are using the local churches to come, all denominations of any kind, to come and set up and be a distribution point where we can actually put this wonderful menu of food together. And we work alongside the food banks and the other food cooperatives and whatnot, because we're not the total answer. I don't think anybody really is, and I think we have to work together. So for the amount of money that we put out, and we were talking about volunteers as well, we'll have a monthly distribution. And where I said we started in '94 and fed 34 families, today we're feeding 550,000 families a month. And it's rapidly growing. And I told you about our distribution points are our churches. And so we're just real proud of that. And also just what we do in the community, where a senior citizen can come to a local body where people care and walk in and have some dignity. Folks, it's tough to be poor and to stand in line and be ridiculed. You're already going through a tough time as it is. As I said earlier, when our plants were closing, people didn't want to come. They just didn't want to stand in line, and people gawking at them and just kind of feeling kind of bad. So folks, I think it's important that we as Americans make our fellow Americans feel good about what they're doing, and we help each other, and that's what makes us strong and viable, and because that's what it's all about. And I tell you what, America in the early stages, the colonies, when they were here, they had a tough time that first go-round. And in fact, the leader of the colony stamped in the center of town there, I think it's in 2 Thessalonians, he said, "Man, don't work, don't eat." Now, of course, he wasn't talking about children or disabled or whatever, but, isn't it time that we as Americans help people up, not put them down, but we can help them and teach them, or maybe come up with job ideas and whatnot. But we can do all that with a box of food and minister to people and love on them and help them. And the beautiful thing about it is this is a program that pays for itself. And thank God for the USDA. I'm so proud to work alongside of the USDA. I don't know, I really, until a few years ago, I thought, as Mr. Secretary stated, that it was all about farm. I thought you had to be a farmer to be part of the USDA. Guys, I found out the USDA is putting infrastructures in, piping, buildings, courthouses, police stations. I've never seen so much in my life. So I said, if they can get something, we can too. So I put in an application, and folks, Shazam, they helped me. And we were so thankful. They built us and loaned us the money to build a 160,000 square foot warehouse. And we have freezers and coolers the size of a football field. Without USDA, we couldn't do that. And so here we are stretching across America with this program alongside of USDA and alongside of you and my friends up here to Feed America. And I'm just telling you, I am so proud to be part of it, and I just really thank you so much for letting me be here.
Thank you. And thank you, Pastor Wingo, for keeping to the time limit.
Very good.
We all joked with him about it prior to.
I'm a pastor. We're long-winded.
And next we have, representing the East Texas Food Bank, Robert Bush. The East Texas Food Bank was invited to be a part of this panel because they're really being creative in the way that they are helping to fight food insecurity, and Robert is going to share some of those creative measures that they're taking.
Thank you, Patricia. Actually, I want to say thank you to Secretary Schaefer and Undersecretary Johnner for what they're doing to increase food security and reduce hunger in America. And also thank you to Deputy Director Medifin for lifting up the tireless work of community and faith-based organizations as we address unmet needs in our communities like hunger. As a proud member of America's Second Harvest, the nation's food bank network, thank you both for convening this roundtable and for providing such a venue to focus on innovative and effective solutions to alleviating hunger at home and abroad. In the United States, there are 35.5 million people, including 12.6 million children, living in households that experience or are at risk of hunger or food insecurity. In Texas, we're one of the hungriest states in the country. We like to be proud of being big and proud of being the best, but this is not one area where we're proud of. In Texas, 1.3 million households are at risk of hunger every day. In East Texas, where I'm from, there are more than 177,000 people living in poverty and another 200,000 who are at risk or right near poverty. And behind all those 35.5 million people are stories, and they're the faces of hunger. It is the father next door who has just lost his job and has a mortgage, mounting bills, and there's little left to put food on the table. It is the single mom who can't afford to buy baby formula, so she waters it down to stretch it and make it go further. It is the veteran living next door on a fixed income and having to choose between buying his life-saving medicine or purchasing groceries. These are the stories, the faces of hunger in America today. These are the tough choices that are made in East Texas every day. 20 years ago, a small group of concerned citizens formed a grassroots community organization to feed the hungry. Guided by a vision of a hunger-free East Texas, the East Texas Food Bank has built a growing network of 200 partner agencies across 26 counties of Northeast Texas, covering 20,000 square miles, of which 3 of every 4 of our pantries is a faith-based organization. Our network feeds thousands of people every day by serving hot meals at a rescue mission, delivering mobile meals to seniors, serving nutritious after-school meals to children, providing a bag of groceries to a family, sending a backpack home with the child over the weekend, and much more. While food banks all across America and around the world are collecting and distributing more food than ever before, the need is still great. Last year, the East Texas Food Bank distributed 13.8 million pounds of food that provided 10.7 million meals to children, seniors, and working families. And yet, we've only touched 25% of the East Texans who are food insecure. 25%. For the past 35 years, food banks have been collecting distressed, dented, damaged, and donated goods and distributing them to hungry Americans through partner agencies. But the need is still great. To respond, food banks continue to innovate additional solutions to hunger in their local communities. In East Texas, we are facing the cruel truth that 1 in 4 of our children are at risk of going to bed hungry. We, along with many other America's Second Harvest food banks, have initiated a number of child hunger programs to help alleviate this tragedy. During the school year, food banks partner with youth-serving organizations such as Boys and Girls Clubs to provide nutritious after-school meals in a safe place at kids' cafes. On Fridays, children who have been identified as food insecure by a teacher, counselor, or principal receive a backpack full of food. Backpack program food is nutritious, kid-friendly, and easy to open, and it requires little, if any, preparation. We know that these children learn, grow, and develop better if their basic need for food is being met. We also sponsor the Summer Food Service Program, a program of the Texas and U.S. Departments of Agriculture. Children who receive free or reduced price lunches during the school year often face hunger in the summer months. Last year, we served 118,000 meals, and we are planning to serve 160,000 this summer. We serve as an intermediary organization on behalf of our partner churches and community groups that provide space, volunteers, and structured activities for participating children. In addition to providing food and groceries for families through pantries and meals through on-site feeding programs, the East Texas Food Bank is employing additional strategies to reduce hunger. In 2006, we launched a food stamp nutrition education program to help families stretch their food dollars, make good food choices, maximize state and federal nutrition programs, and benefit from supplemental food programs. We also conduct social marketing campaigns to promote good nutrition, like the USDA's Loving Your Family, Feeding Their Future, and Eat Smart, Play Hard. In partnership with the Texas Food Bank Network and Texas's Health and Human Services Commission, we have begun an innovative food stamp outreach and enrollment project. Food stamps should be the best and first line of defense against domestic hunger. Yet only half of those eligible currently participate in the program in East Texas. Based on 2006 results, 25 counties that we serve have participation rates below 50%, and one as low as 13% participation rate. In 2007, the East Texas Food Bank launched a program to increase the awareness and participation in the food stamp program. A number of strategies were tested to determine how best to achieve our goal. Some of those include educating our partner agencies, door-to-door canvassing in low-income neighborhoods, gaining media coverage, in-home visits, incorporating food stamp outreach into our core business model, serving as an ombudsman on behalf of potential clients, and marketing the program to employers through chambers of commerce so that they can educate their employees on these needed benefits. A recent innovation in East Texas was in response to learning that seniors were cutting their Friday meal from Meals on Wheels into force and then using them to eat over the weekend. The East Texas Food Bank is working to solve this problem with a program we call Senior Servings. Senior Servings is a program targeting seniors who receive meal assistance during the week but are unable to receive meal assistance on the weekends. Food bank volunteers fill bags each week with easy-to-open, nutritious food for seniors. Then the food is delivered on Fridays along with the Meals on Wheels meal. There are many and diverse strategies to alleviating hunger in America, and the East Texas Food Bank is working every day to integrate these strategies into a comprehensive, multifaceted plan that leads to a hunger-free East Texas. Hunger in America is a solvable problem, but it takes each of us playing our unique role, public, private, nonprofit, faith-based, working together to ensure that no man, woman, or child goes to bed not knowing where his or her meal will come from. Thank you again to Secretary Schaefer, Undersecretary Johnner, and to Deputy Director Medifin for having this event.
Our next panelist is Candy Hill. She represents the Catholic Charities Social Policy and Government Affairs Department, but she also is one of those individuals who is so passionate about what she does that she left a career with the state of Michigan to go work for Catholic Charities. So she's the kind of person that actually walks the walk. And Candy, can you please tell us a little bit about what you do?
Thank you very much. And I want to echo my fellow panelists. Thank you to everyone here for actually hosting this event and for allowing Catholic Charities USA to have the opportunity to talk here today to all of you. We trace our roots in service back to the Ursuline Sisters in New Orleans more than 275 years ago when they came to this country to open the first social services agency. And since that day, Catholic Charities across this country have continued to provide social services, really growing first out of our immigrant experience, and then as that immigrant population assimilated into this country, serving all of those in needs in our respective communities, many times where we find ourselves to be the minority religion. But when one of the human family hurts and is hungry, we are called to actually be of service. And the services that we provide across this country are deeply rooted in the dignity of the human person, which requires each of us that are created in the likeness of an image of God to care for our fellow brothers and sisters. We've heard today about the issue of hunger domestically and the growing numbers of people in this country who are unable to feed themselves or their families. Our Catholic Charities agencies act as the innkeepers to people in their communities, always opening their doors, always serving those who come to them. And it's because of the gifts that we are given not just by God, but by our brothers and sisters and our partnerships with government and our partners, many of which are here today in the audience, who help us do this work. I would be remiss in not mentioning to you that today with me is Jane Stenson, who is the Senior Program Manager for Catholic Charities USA, who actually is the leader of our organization here in Alexandria in terms of working with our agencies on the ground to make these kind of services happen day in and day out. I want to talk a little bit about Catholic Charities USA and our campaign to reduce poverty in America, because as you know, hunger is a symptom of a larger problem in this country where we see so many individuals who live at or below the poverty level. And for us currently, we see dramatic increases in the number of people coming to us for their basic needs, and many, many of these people are working men and women in this country. A disturbing fact, I think, in the greatest nation on earth. We serve 1 in every 10 people who are represented in the federal poverty numbers every year. We have seen a 12% increase in soup kitchens, congregate dining, home-delivered meals, food bank, and pantry services, and we served some type of meal or responded to some type of hunger to 6.3 million people last year, almost half of the number of people that are represented in the statistics that we've heard about today. We have found unique partners in order to provide this service. We also have been an effective partner of government, and we feel that government must do its role in being an effective partner. I want to cite 3 examples, and I want to call your attention to a handout that's on your way out, where you'll see more detail about each of these programs. But what I'd like to do is say to you that the programs I want to talk about represent the breadth of our network in this country and the unique programs that people are involved in. Many times, the first reason that a person comes to Catholic Charities Agency is because they're hungry. But the unique thing that happens across this country when they come is they don't get just services provided for hunger. Nearly 400 people a day currently come to our Reno, Nevada St. Vincent Center, which has been operating a food pantry since 1946. In addition, 14,000 people receive food every month from this center. But again, it's not just about receiving food. It's about a collaborative effort that engages a person who is hungry to help them along a continuum that will allow them to feed themselves in the future. One of the, I think, premier programs of Catholic Charities agencies is not too far away in Baltimore, Maryland. And if you get the opportunity to visit there, you should do it. It's called Our Daily Bread. This facility, ran by Catholic Charities of the Archdiocese of Baltimore, is the largest facility of its kind in the state of Maryland that has been serving warm and nutritious meals to the city's poorest residents for more than 25 years. Last year, they moved to a new facility after being selected by Baltimore City to develop and run our Daily Bread Employment Center, which houses not only the feeding center and the dining facility, but 3 other existing agencies that focus on promoting self-sufficiency through employment. Through broad-based community and governmental support, Catholic Charities of Baltimore was able to raise the money needed to fund this program. Our Daily Bread of Baltimore not only offers hot meals, but also offers comprehensive alternatives to life on the street. Clients are able to obtain assistance with job search training and the support needed to become self-sufficient through employment. The center operates an 18-month residential center program for formerly homeless men, an eviction prevention program, an employment program for low and unskilled workers readily accessible to people who come in to dine. A series of other programs are available and surround the people that are served there. Another example is in Des Moines, Iowa, where St. Mary's Family Center not only feeds people and provides clothing, but provides comprehensive help to 21 families in the Des Moines area. I think one of the premier programs for Catholic Charities USA is its member agency in the Archdiocese of Chicago. A unique partnership is ran between the State of Illinois Department of Human Services and Catholic Charities to actually administer the Women, Infant, and Children's Program. This program has been recognized by USDA for its innovation and effective delivery of services to women and children. 18 centers provide a variety of WIC-approved food program participants. The food centers provide supervised playroom, access to social services, job training and education. In addition, vision, hearing testing, immunization screening, and nutrition education are also available. Some of the centers provide one-stop shopping offering WIC services, daycare, Head Start, and family case management and health services. We also participate, many of our agencies, in advancing the food stamp program, the commodity supplemental food program, and the emergency food assistance program, and the emergency food and shelter grant program. They deliver essential food assistance to low-income individual families and children and seniors that need this protection. I want to mention the food stamp program as it's been mentioned before and remind people that this is by far the most effective program that we've seen in fighting hunger in this country. The important information is that many people who are eligible are not participating. And we urge Congress and the administration to advance policies that create greater access to those who are hungry and qualify for this important program. And Catholic Charities has demonstrated its willingness to partner with government in order to advance that type of collaboration. And an example of that is in our San Diego agency, where the state has contracted with San Diego Catholic Charities to enroll people coming in for emergency food stamps in the food stamp program. I also want to mention a program that kind of gets hidden away in the federal budget process in the Department of Homeland Security budget, and that is the Emergency Food and Shelter Grant Program. I mention that because this program was established 25 years ago during a great economic downturn in this country, and where FEMA was selected to deliver this food program and shelter program on the ground because of its ability in disasters to do that. And so we're proud to be a partner with other national organizations that are in this room today to be able to set on a national board that allows money to flow directly to local communities where they are able to decide on a flexible basis what's most needed there. It is one of those programs that clearly demonstrates that government and nonprofits can be effective partners. As you can see, Catholic Charities agencies serve the hungry, provide more than food. Individuals are engaged in service that will help them feed themselves. We're able to do this work because we are an effective and accountable partner with the government. Effective public policy and innovative programs with government support must continue to be strengthened in order to help to address the growing problem we face with hunger in this nation. Catholic Charities USA is committed to continuing to work as an effective and accountable partner with the government to meet the needs of the most vulnerable in our society. Thank you very much.
We'd like to open up our discussion for questions, so I'd welcome anyone in the audience who has questions for our panelists. I do have a few that I would like to ask, but I'd like to give anyone the opportunity. Ma'am?
Yes, I'm Faye Laura from the Central Virginia Food Bank in Richmond, Virginia. And I guess the thing that's burning on my mind is because we are so dependent on USDA and all the wonderful programs that it provides, we're all very anxiously awaiting what's happening with Farm Bill. And I think that's probably the elephant in the room for many of us. And so would really like to hear, do you have anything, up to date on that particular issue?
Well, the Farm Bill is actually something that I'm not at liberty to discuss because I'm not well versed in it. I follow it like everybody else. So I would have to defer that question. We can definitely get you some information, but this would not be the forum to do so. Do we have other non-Farm Bill related questions?
It's going to be really hard, but I will restrain myself from Farm Bill questions. I'm Ellen Teller with the Food Research and Action Center, and want to commend the incredible work that your panelists are doing, both on the private sector side and also for their incredible food stamp outreach and other partnering that they're doing with government agencies. One program that I just wanted to highlight, in addition to the wonderful food stamp work and outreach you're doing, the rules are changing this summer for the summer feeding program, which is the most underutilized of all the federal food assistance programs. Congress, in the last omnibus appropriations bill, eliminated cost accounting, which was a real barrier for a lot of private nonprofit sponsors. And the food bank that I'm on the board of, we see a spike during the summer months when school is out for demand for food because the kids are not getting free and reduced price meals at school. So one of the hopes I had for this group today was to learn more about the simplified summer feeding program and to go back. So now is the time that we're recruiting sponsors of the program. I know a lot of you are operating summer feeding programs. It's going to be exponentially easier to operate this program this summer without those administrative burdens. I know USDA and Secretary Monez-Johnner is doing a lot of outreach on that, but again, to bring that message home that it's a brand new program, it's going to be a lot easier to administer. Over 94% of sites have activities, so kids are getting physical activities, they're in libraries and book clubs, they're at municipal swimming pools. It's a great program, and if you're not in the program yet, you should take a look at it.
Thank you. Robert, would you like to touch on that?
I'll follow up with this. You're exactly right. The East Texas Food Bank did not participate in the summer food program until the Lugar pilot came around. And when Texas was included in that, we took another look at it because the burden on the nonprofit or sponsor was great in terms of the cost accounting, and you had to essentially run two different accounting systems and then see what you tested one over the other and decided which way you're going to file, and it was really convoluted. But because of this new approach, we've started it 3 years ago, and we grew from 35,000 meals to what will be 160,000 meals this summer. I do sort of argue for an intermediary organization if it makes sense, like a food bank or some other organization, because there is still some bureaucracy and some forms you have to fill out, and it's not a perfect fit for everybody. But I echo exactly what you've said, Ellen, in that you need to take a look at it if you're trying to feed kids over the summer, because it's a very, very much more streamlined program than it has been in the past.
Candy, do you have anything to add to that?
Well, I echo the problems with it, having come from running an agency, a small agency in Michigan after I left state government, that in fact, even though we ran a Head Start agency, it was virtually impossible for us to support the kind of infrastructure to be able to function with all of our other programs. And so the streamlining of I'm sure for some of our agencies that are smaller is going to add to increased activity. Some of our larger agencies have already been actively participating because they actually had the infrastructure to do it. But we always welcome anything that will streamline any kind of regulation to actually get assistance to those people who really need it.
Thank you.
I would add one thing. USDA did fund a rural transportation grant with us, and actually it's made a big difference in rural communities because in desolate, we have 20,000 square miles, and so some children are 30 or 40 miles from their school. And so I would think creatively and look to USDA and other funding sources to make the meals accessible to children, because having them at the school or having them at a community organization do nothing if the children don't show up.
Okay, we have two questions. So first to the gentleman here, and then we'll take yours.
Leroy Gilbert, DHS Center for Faith-Based and Community Initiative. Pastor Winger, how does a church become a distributor and from your organization? And do you have distributors in the Washington, Virginia, Northern Virginia, and Maryland area?
Okay, I'm going to repeat the question for those of you who may not have heard it. The question was, how can a church or an organization become a distributor for Angel Food Ministries? And are there any churches or organizations that currently participate in the Washington, Northern Virginia, Maryland area?
Thank you for your question. And actually, probably the easiest way right now to become part of our program, just go online to angelfoodministries.com. We have an application process that you can do there. Now, if not, just call Angel Food. You can look up information. I can give you the number, but see me afterwards. But just call. We'll forward you promo information. But yes, to answer your question, it's a pretty simple process to go through. We're adding, I think I said earlier, we have about 4,000 host sites across the country. Right now, we're adding about 200 nonprofits a month to our ministry as a host site. Now, for this district, for this region here, actually we have David Mills. David, you may raise your hand in the back. The gentleman might like to see you. He is actually our director for this area, and would love for you to meet with him and be glad to get you involved in the ministry. We do have, David, is it now just in Virginia, what, 17? About 25 sites in Virginia now that are part of Angel Food. So I hope I answered your question.
And David.
Yeah, my question was, can the panelists address the impact of rising food prices, the pressure on food prices related to ethanol, and exports related to the value of the dollar, and how that's impacting them? How are they helping people in the situation?
Okay, for those of you who did not hear the question, is how, I guess everybody heard the question. It was, you did well. Okay.
Projected
All right.
well.
That's right. Do we have any volunteers?
I can speak to my experience sort of at the Main Street level. In East Texas, we actually truck a great deal of our own food around the 20,000 square miles to make the food accessible to families. And so for us, it's a real issue, just the price of fuel. I'm not going to get into the whole macroeconomics discussion, but I do know that our fuel costs have gone up probably 40% since last year and will continue to escalate. Fortunately, we had a local donor who is actually working with us to get us fuel at the refinery cost. So nonprofits all across America are trying to figure it out and make ends meet. But it's a real issue. And the price of food, we buy quite a bit of food to make sure we have a good nutritional blend and mix, upwards to about $1 million a year. And we can't get as much food for the same amount of money as was happening before. So I do think it's real, and I think this year will be a telltale year.
Candy?
What we see happening is that more and more people are coming to us for food assistance because it is one of the most easy access points to receive assistance. So as fuel prices are rising for the individual consumer who needs that money in order to be able to get to their job, as we see escalating heating costs, as we see the price of groceries in the stores rising. What we see rising very dramatically are the number of people that are accessing emergency food, because it is by far a service that's most accessible to people who are living in poverty. And so the demand is much, much greater, I think, for us in those areas. And I don't see, and the other thing we see is these, as I mentioned in my remarks, is the face of who we're serving is changing very quickly over time, in that we're seeing more and more working families who are working more than one job and still are not able to make their basic needs, and are making choices about whether they come to a food pantry or soup kitchen to feed their children and themselves, or whether they're an elderly person who's going to buy their medicine and pay their utilities, but they're not going to have enough food. And so that's where we see on the ground level the economic situation in this country having a very, very dramatic impact on people.
Thank you, Pastor Wingo.
I totally agree with Mr. Bush and Ms. Hill, is that we're faced in this country today, same thing as I mentioned about my father, you know, back during the Depression. So we're, the income or the giving side of that, the donation side, is dwindling, and they're having a dickens of a time. So here we are on the Angel Food side. That's the reason that we have to charge for the food. We have to pay for it. And so our heart is to come back in and help support my two colleagues and their support and other ministries around the country. I believe that the model that that Secretary Kirk talked about is that, and what Patsy and Undersecretary Nancy's trying to do here, we're trying to get people more aware of the food stamp program. I mean, the government's most willing to help, and I think it's our part, Angel Food's part, to get out, and food stamp, and the food pantry's part to get out and get people signed up for the food stamp program. You have not because you ask not, and so let's at least try to sign up, and we're trying to make it easier. We were favored with a grant over in Alabama, where we're trying to use the technology side as to where we can take a little kiosk, if you will, and you can come in and swipe the EBT card, and it does all the processing for us, et cetera. Now, that was USDA that helped us do that. Also, USDA is working very close with us and into the fact that with our technology now, that we can actually take the same kiosk and give it to Ms. Hill and Mr. Bush and other agencies around the country, where people can actually go in and answer a few questions about the food stamp program. That sends it to the state agency, where these people don't have to expend gas money to go to a agency, sit for 3 or 4 hours trying to get their application in, and this can start the process. So I think what we have to do on our side is do everything that we can do to make it easier, for the folks to get out there and get signed up and help them. And I really think that's what the USDA is trying to do, is help us to help our folks out there. So I hope maybe that helps some.
One last question I'd like to ask each of the panelists to address what kind of innovative activities your organization is involved in to improve the delivery of methods of the services that you provide, but also to ensure that the people who are receiving the services feel as if they're being treated like family and they're being given a helping hand.
Would you like for me to start? Okay.
Sure.
Microphone slid this way, so I think it's my shot. So I think what Angel Food's trying to do at this point, we are working about 90%, actually about 98% of our distribution sites are churches. The other 2% would be Rotary clubs or Lions clubs or fire departments, et cetera, that do this program. Now, remember now, we're only doing this once a month in the community, where my colleagues here are doing it daily. And so therefore, that really doesn't put us in competition with grocery stores and other things, because we don't want to do that. But I think that my part about this, as I said earlier today, it's most important that we as fellow Americans show our countrymen dignity. If they're down and out, let's help them. The last thing they need is discouragement. They need encouragement. And I think if we can show them how we can help them and love on them. Just think of our elderly. About the only time they ever get a kind word maybe is when they come to your church or synagogue or parish, just give them a kind word, or take this box of food of Angel Food and tote it out to their car, and yes ma'am, no ma'am, and how you doing? I want to state this. I think you'd get a kick out of this in Connecticut. This came across my desk, Patsy. This motorcycle gang, I'm going to mention the name of the motorcycle gang. It's a very well-known motorcycle gang. And this particular gentleman was tattooed from head to toe. Had the ponytail and the leathers on, I don't know what you call that, but in his nice Harley. And on the back, he had affixed a basket where he could actually put a couple of boxes of food. And he heard about this elderly lady that was shut in, and he heard about Angel Food Ministries, and so he went to the church and said, I want to buy 2 boxes of food. I know there's a couple of elderly ladies that live in the community, and I'm taking it to them. Can you imagine this guy coming up, this muscles ripping off, this leather stuff on, and the whole bit ponytail down to his waist and tattoos everywhere, and just say, yeah, ma'am, I'm here to give you a box of food. And listen to this story, how sweet it is. He fell in love with this little lady, just helping her out. He now takes her box of food every month, cleans her yard up, cuts her grass, paints the fence, and takes well care of this woman. Now, I don't know about you. That touches my heart. You say, well, is he a Christian? Well, I don't have a clue. But what difference does it make? It was his fellow citizen, needed some help, and he goes to the rescue of this little lady. So what are we doing about that? I think we're being kind and nice, and because I think the law of reciprocity is in action here. If you're kind and nice to someone, chances are they're going to be kind and nice to you. So I think the key to it, Patsy, is this. I think that let's learn how to give dignity to our fellow Americans. I think what we do is find the programs that are available out here. Let's all get involved. Let's get the word out, and let's do what Americans do the best, help each other.
Thank you. Candy?
Well, the national kind of tagline for Catholic charities agencies across this country are providing help, creating hope. And I think that speaks to what we try to do each time we encounter a person. And I hearken back to my beginning of my remarks when I talk about the fact that I think each of our agencies see themselves as an innkeeper in their local community, providing hospitality to people who present themselves. I do think, too, that we try to live the example in this very individualistic society that we've sort of lost our sense of community and helping each other's neighbor. I do think that given what's happening currently with the foreclosure crisis and the subprime market kind of coming upon us, that more and more Americans who felt very individualistic 6 months ago realize that if somebody loses their house in their neighborhood or becomes homeless, that it has a dramatic impact on your own individual house and your own individual resources and your own individual finances. And I think that presents a unique opportunity for each of us who've been toiling and doing this work and trying to help people move out of poverty, to actually get the message across that when somebody is poor and somebody is hungry, it doesn't just affect that person, but it affects all of us in communities across this country. And so that's the focus of Catholic Charities USA and what we try to do every day in local communities.
Thank you. Robert?
Actually, as I was thinking about Faye's comment about the Farm Bill, I'm not here to advocate one way or the other on the Farm Bill, but it is critical that there's a strong nutrition title. The reason is because it's about the faces of the people that I see every day in East Texas. And policy is critical because it ultimately translates to hopefully change lives. And I was thinking about a family actually who got a backpack, and I may get choked up a little bit, but we started a backpack program, and there was a child who got a backpack. And through the backpack, it changed his life and his family's life. The mother who had to stop out of going to school because she had some family issues, she's now back in school. She was living in dilapidated housing, and as a result of getting this backpack and linked to services and to real people, they're now in a safe and affordable home. One of the children needed a surgery on his leg and now was able to do that. And that all really, and I'm not overstating it, started with a backpack. Because what that did is it opened up a whole world of opportunities for this family. So now they have hope, and hopefully will become successful adults. The other part is the food stamp program, to me, is one of the grossly underutilized benefits we have available to people. And that's about real people too, because when it's operated appropriately, it's a very dignified, respectful way to help feed your family. And what I would encourage is that those that are policymakers work with the people on the front lines to help drive solutions and strategies to make these programs work for families and get away from some of the bureaucracy, but back to the real people. And I know Undersecretary Johnner has been to the East Texas Food Bank and seen the faces of some seniors who receive what we call senior servings on Fridays, and that's the real story. And so I would challenge everyone, frankly, to take a day and volunteer at a food pantry or a soup kitchen or a food bank, or with the Catholic Charities, or even Pastor Wingo's operation. And I think you'll see the faces and the real lives behind the big numbers. So, thank you.
Thank you. I see that we have one more question, but we've run out of time. I think our panelists will be available a little bit afterwards. Again, we'd like to thank Pastor Joe Wingo from Angel Food Ministries, Candy Hill from Catholic Charities, and also Robert Bush from East Texas Food Bank. And thank you all for your time.
All right. Well, thank you, Patricia. Thank you, panel. Each and every one of you. That was you did a great job of naming the burden, but also pointing us to reasons why there's hope. And you know, some of the things, it would have been actually fun that we could have spent a day unpacking some of the things you were alluding to, Robert. You talked about the intermediary model, and that's something through the faith-based and community initiative that we have found is really a vital way to reach the frontline organizations, because if you're thinking about trying to pair government, which is so massive, with a very small local organization, the gap between the cultures and the requirements and all those things can actually be overwhelming, whereas when you have a quality intermediary organization that can actually help wade through the paperwork and with the accountability requirements and all those things, you can actually, government can reach deep, deep, deep because of that intermediary organization. That's something we're trying to expand all over government, but that was great. I'd like to actually hear more about that later. One thing I neglected to mention, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Jed Medifin. I'm the Deputy Director of the Faith-Based and Community Initiative, but you can just refer to me as that MC guy. That'll be just fine for me. As we all know, hunger is very much a problem that is not only something faced in this country, but that ravages around the world. And it's not only in times of drought and war and other crises, but it's something that's known just in the grinding life of poverty in many countries around the world. In 2003, the estimate between the buying power of the world's poorest nations and the nutritional requirements to keep them healthy was somewhere around 32 million tons of food. One thing that's exciting is that Americans have engaged this need on a scale unseen in the world's history, and often we don't know that. It's something we can be thankful about. Here's a few little facts for you that the Secretary actually shared. In 2006 alone, we helped feed more than 70 million people in 50 countries around the world. And America is by far the largest donor in Darfur, actually has provided well over half of the food to that very troubled region. Since 2005, more than 1.2 billion there alone. In 2006, the United States spent more than $154 million in food assistance, as well as education and health and social services for Palestinians living in the West Bank, in Gaza, and Jordan, and Lebanon, Syria. The U.S. is also the largest donor to the United Nations World Food Program. Since 2003, the U.S. has provided about $1.2 billion every single year to that program. And so those are things that we can feel a sense of quiet thankfulness and pride in as Americans. But at the same time, we know that the need is still massive, far beyond what is currently available. And so to lead discussion of what some of the innovative models that are helping to address these hunger and other related issues throughout the world, we have Kirk Miller, who is the Associate Administrator for the USDA Foreign Agricultural Service. So please welcome Kirk. And the whole panel, actually. Come on up, panel.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. It's indeed an honor and a pleasure for me to be here this afternoon to lead this panel. The previous panel did an excellent job of setting the stage relative to domestic food assistance programs, and we hope that the input we have here this afternoon as relates to the international will be just as impressive. We've already cited a lot of the background statistics. I'm not going to take a lot of time to do that. We'll leave it that the U.S. Department of Agriculture operates two food assistance programs internationally. One is called the Food for Progress program. This is a program where we donate commodities to private voluntary organizations that monetize the commodities, convert them to cash, or use some of the commodity in their programming. The funds are then used for worthwhile purposes all over the world. The other program that we are quite proud of is our Global Food for Education program. I will tell you, when this program was adopted in 2003, there was a letter signed by all 100 U.S. senators directing that program should be sent to USDA to administer, and we're very proud to say that we've had a great history of running that program. We're pleased here this afternoon to have three outstanding private volunteer organization partners with us on the panel. I'm going to start off first with Mr. George Antoine, who is the Regional Director for the Middle East and Caucasus at the International Orthodox Christian Charities, also known as IOCC. Mr. Anton is going to describe IOCC's successful Food for Education program in Lebanon and how his Christian organization worked effectively in primarily a Muslim country. George, you want to go ahead and lead off?
Thank you. Well, I'm going to talk about the school feeding and education program that IOCC has implemented in Lebanon. The funding of this program has been given by USDA, and the partners are mainly the Ministry of Education in Lebanon, a university, and local NGOs, communities, parents, and schools. Just to give you an idea about Lebanon, this is a tiny country of about 4 million people. The debts in the country now stands at $45 billion, and which is estimated about 188% of GDP. 28% of people live below the poverty line, and unemployment has reached 20% this year. The target population is students of 3 to 15 years of age in public schools. In Lebanon, there is a big discrepancy between private and public schools. Usually middle-class families send their kids to private schools, and you end up having very poor families sending their kids to public schools. The pictures here give you an idea about the crowdedness in classrooms and also the conditions of some of the classrooms. This leads to poor learning conditions and, in general, to low student performance. Now, the components of the program are mainly a feeding component. It includes also the distribution of school supplies, school equipment, infrastructure rehabilitation in the schools, education and awareness campaigns, and capacity building in child health. Since 2001, more than 10 million meals were distributed to the kids. And the purpose is not just giving nutritious food to the children, but also to work with them to be able to understand that it's important to use the very limited resources that they and their families have to always eat nutritious food. This is David, and after the program, we see the behavioral change, and David says that this now is teaching us how to be healthy. They're tasty, and we enjoy them. Alyssa is 12 years old also, and she says, when I go to a store, I try to choose healthy snacks that are like the ones that we are offered. In addition to this, the program works on raising awareness of students and parents, and this is done through publications that are prepared and produced by the university, our partner in Lebanon. And so far, more than 50 publications have been prepared and distributed in public schools. These publications are brochures, posters, magazines that we distribute to children. And the effect of this, we can see here when Sana is saying, I now bring a sandwich with me from home, because some of the literature, or a lot of it, is to teach them and educate them that it's important to eat when they are at school, and also to bring food with them. The program also sponsors educational plays. So far, around 60,000 students participated in interactive educational plays. This is very important for these kids because they come from poor families. Usually they don't go and see these plays, and the plays are prepared especially to tackle environment, health, and nutritious topics. Also, parents in public schools are invited by the directors of the schools to attend special sessions, and these sessions are held by professionals who come and talk about different topics that are of interest for the parents, and also they listen and answer their questions. There is also another component about the building capacity of teachers, and this is to upgrade their performance and knowledge to be better able to work with students. The program works on establishing student clubs, and this is how students work with their peers. They get educated, and then they take the knowledge with them to their homes, to their peers also, when they play with them who are not attending the same schools. The program works with parent-teachers associations, and this is very important for them to understand the important role that they can play in the schools. By law, it's stipulated that PTAs are formed in schools, but we see them most of the time they are inactive, they don't know and understand the role. All of this together comes to a community capacity building where the parents and the teachers and the students work together in their communities. And usually every year they have a certain activity in the village or the town where they live, where everybody is involved in this. In addition to all the previous things, the program provides school equipment and school supplies to children. And this is to work on improving the learning environment. We can see some of the faces of children very happy to see this, to get the school supplies. The program also works on school rehabilitation, and you can see the difference between the school after being rehabilitated. This gives a better environment for kids to be sitting in a good place and understanding and performing better. Now, being a faith-based organization, a Christian faith-based organization working in the Middle East, which is predominantly non-Christian, is very important. It's an achievement by itself. And we believe that being affiliated with the Orthodox Church that exists in the region and that's very well known to people have also helped us to have access to the communities. I'd like to share this story with you, and this was after the war in July 2006. This is about a town called Maroun Ras. It's on the border between Israel and Lebanon. After the war, we went into the region to help people who came back after massive displacement, and we talked to the head of the municipality, who is affiliated with anti-U.S. radical group. So he didn't want to cooperate when he knew that this is a U.S. government assistance. And he wanted to deprive the whole community from the assistance. So we went to the school director, who we have known for years, and we've been working in the village. And with him, we formed a committee that was able to receive the assistance and distribute it. And in the end, we got a thank you letter for the work that we've done. Another story I would like to share with you is about a lady who we, IOCC staff met in a displacement center. This lady is from the southern suburb of Beirut, and also she was displaced with her family. When she saw IOCC staff distributing relief things to them in that displacement center, she recognized the IOCC sign, and she came to them and she said, aren't you the same organization that's helping our kids in schools, giving them food every day and also helping the school? And the staff said yes, and immediately she came, she hugged them, and she said, and with tears in her eyes, she said, you were with us at peace, and now you are with us during the war. It's very important, the success of the program, we believe that it's because of being able to see the potential and then using an integrated approach where you have more than one component working together. To educate children, to educate their parents, also to improve the learning conditions. Excuse me, I'm sorry. And then see witnessing the change in the behavior of the students and in their parents. And the challenge is to sustain the momentum in order to provide a better future. I would like to close by just reading the translation of a poem that was sent to IOCC to thank IOCC and USDA for the Food for Education program. And this was written by Fatima. They said, we are children poor and deprived. Our schools are functioning, but no matter what. Whether we pass or fail, does that mean anything for grown-ups? No one was interested, no one even cared. What we ate, what we drank, where we played, why would they even care? But suddenly, you cared, and we felt important. You should eat this, you should eat that, in drawings and in pictures. We understood the message, we understood the words. We participated in clubs through info and smiles. We felt we grew, and life became a blessing. Thank you. And I'd like really to thank USDA for this opportunity to be here today with everybody. Thank you.
Thank you very much, George. That was a very touching story. We're going to allow Beth and George to shift seats here, but our next speaker is Beth Sheehy, a senior representative with Planet Aid. She's going to present Planet Aid's work in Mozambique and Malawi under the Food for Progress program. Planet Aid's program work to train teachers, organize farmers, improve nutrition, and help communities and individuals affected by HIV/AIDS. Planet Aid is a relatively new implementing partner with USDA, and you'll see from her presentation that they have achieved amazing results in a very short period of time. Beth?
Thank you. Thank you very much for including Planet Aid in this important day. We are honored to be present and to add to the dialogue on international hunger issues. Planet Aid is engaged in the battle against hunger through our international development work and through our commitment to the UN Millennium Goal of ending extreme hunger and poverty. Planet Aid celebrated its 10th anniversary last year. Our mission is to help disadvantaged citizens of the earth improve their lives and the future for generations to come. We do this by supporting programs addressing health, education, food production, and income generation in impoverished communities in Africa, Asia, Latin America. To date, we have contributed more than $18 million in funding and gifts in kind. In the United States, Planet Aid collects used clothing and shoes. We have 8,000 collection boxes nationwide. Americans desire to help others in need, and through the simple but generous act of donating unwanted clothing and shoes, Planet Aid raised close to $6 million for development in 2006. Planet Aid is a member of the International Humana People-to-People movement. The Federation has 29 locally registered NGOs implementing more than 200 projects in Africa, Asia, Europe, and the Americas. Our projects fight poverty, care for children's basic needs, establish schools for street children and orphans, train teachers in 21 teacher training colleges, and reach over 8 million people with HIV/AIDS assistance through the TCE program, Total Control of the Epidemic. Planet Aid entered into a partnership with the United States Department of Agriculture 5 years ago. We were awarded a Food for Progress grant in Mozambique, and then a year later, a grant in Malawi. Through the donation of U.S. agricultural commodity from the U.S. taxpayer and the administrative support and guidance of USDA FAS, our programs work to train teachers, organize farmers, improve nutrition, and help communities and individuals with HIV/AIDS. We are in the 4th year of a 6-year program in Mozambique. Planet Aid was awarded 60,000 metric tons of wheat to support, 10,500 farmers supported in farmers clubs, 450 people receiving HIV/AIDS assistance through the Total Control of the Epidemic program, 900 teachers trained at teacher training colleges, and 180 teachers receiving advanced degrees permitting them to instruct other teachers. In addition, we were able to construct One World University to educate teacher trainers and to provide 5,000 people affected by HIV/AIDS with soy meals through the construction of 50 soy canteens. In Malawi, we are in the 2nd year of a 3-year Food for Progress program. Here we were awarded 30,000 metric tons of wheat to support 230 farmers clubs supporting 11,500 farmers, and to provide HIV/AIDS assistance to 400,000 people through the Total Control of the Epidemic program. 330 teachers are trained at teacher trainer colleges, and the American Soybean Association conducts nutrition training for 200 TCE field officers and 150 teacher trainees. Planet Aid is committed to combating hunger and nutrition. Through the Food for Progress programs in Mozambique and Malawi, we accomplished this with farmers clubs and soy canteens. Food security is defined as a farmer having enough food for the family year-round and for each individual to have 3 nutritious meals a day. Our farmers clubs are organized into a group of 3,000 farmers, 60 clubs with 50 members apiece. 6 extension workers and 1 project leader are assigned to each club. 1 extension worker is responsible for 10 clubs. Farmers clubs in Malawi are fighting hunger through the following ways. They receive training in crop diversification, land preparation, crop management, early planning, food preservation, storage and pest control, and disease management. Farmers clubs also work to develop the capacity of farmers by using low-cost irrigation rope pumps, working to increase yields through the introduction of high-yield crop varieties, and through livestock pass-on grants. As we have learned through our work with the Total Control of the Epidemic program in Africa, nutritious food with sufficient protein supports the body's immune system. However, food insecurity and lack of education prevent many HIV-positive people from consuming adequate nutrition. The USDA Food for Progress program in Mozambique developed a soy distribution program through the establishment of 50 soy canteens in the Sofala province. Here, soy foods are distributed to poor HIV/AIDS affected individuals, particularly targeting orphans, pregnant women, and those living with HIV/AIDS. Our results to date. The World Initiative for Soy and Human Health carried out the monitoring and evaluation of the soy distribution. A baseline survey and measures were conducted on 387 individuals prior to the start of the food distribution. A follow-up evaluation on product acceptability was done, and it measured height, weight, body composition, and strength. 200 follow-up surveys were completed at 6 months. We're happy to report that the soy foods were well accepted and filled the gap in quality protein sources. The follow-up also showed an impressive 67% of adults improved body mass index, 81% demonstrated improved strength, and 94% of children improved in malnutrition categories. The TCE soy program proved to have an important nutritional impact on the recipients of soy product rations. Again, thank you very much for the partnership with USDA, and thank you for including us here today.
Thank you, Beth. Well, our final panelist this afternoon is Laura Evans, a technical specialist on the Global Food Resource Team at World Vision. Ms. Evans will talk about World Vision's Food for Progress program in Mongolia and their Food for Education program in Afghanistan. World Vision has been working successfully with USDA for going on 2 decades now in the fight against hunger. Do you want to stay there?
Yeah.
Okay. Very good.
Thank you. Thank you to the White House Office of Faith-Based and Community Initiatives, to the United States Department of Agriculture for the opportunity to participate in this discussion today. I'm honored to share this panel with highly respected and influential colleagues and friends. My name is Lara Evans. I'm a technical specialist on the Global Food Resources Team at World Vision. World Vision is a Christian relief and development agency working to build a better future for children in nearly 100 countries. World Vision has been active in this field for the past 58 years. As a Christian organization, World Vision serves alongside the poor and oppressed as a demonstration of God's unconditional love for all people. This afternoon, I will discuss 2 of the ways that World Vision puts its faith into action through food programs funded by the Department of Agriculture. One is a Food for Progress program in Mongolia, where World Vision has been active since 1995. The other is a Food for Education program in Afghanistan, where World Vision has been working since 2001. The goal of the Food for Progress program in Mongolia is to diversify the incomes of herders through improved agricultural production and processing. This includes promoting the higher quality livestock and veterinary care, increasing capacity of small business and development, and providing distance learning and literacy skills for children and adults. All right, I'm going to be the first technically challenged speaker. This project facilitated a series of trainings on biointensive horticultural techniques, processing and preservation of fruits and vegetables, as well as greenhouse and underground storage construction to approximately 3,000 herders. These trainings led to an increased income among beneficiary herders. For example, the percentage of households whose income ranged from just $10 to $50 a month decreased from 38% to 12%. The percentage of households whose income ranged from $200 to $500 per month increased from 9% to 17%. Overall, the trainings have led to improved food security and dietary diversity. Thank you. Under the animal husbandry component, a series of trainings were conducted on animal care, rangeland management, higher quality breeds, and processing of livestock products. Trainings include both classroom and hands-on field experience. Of note, World Vision works with a local faith-based partner organization dedicated to strengthening Mongolia's veterinarian care system. As part of the business development process, herders learn about cooperative formation, business and marketing skills, business planning, and proposal writing. Learning centers have a multitude of resources for the community, including newspapers, DVDs, and books to complement training classes described in the previous slides. Additionally, the program provides literacy training for young herders. Mongolia has a very different set of gender inequities than you find in most of the world. In Mongolia, males need empowerment. Young herders are males. They're pulled out of school and they're isolated in the fields with their herds. Changing to Afghanistan. The Food for Education program in Western Afghanistan began in 2003. It is implemented in the provinces of Baghdad and Ghor. The primary objectives, similar to what my colleague described, are to increase enrollment by providing a nutritious monthly take-home food package linked to student attendance, to improve the quality of instruction at primary schools by providing monthly food packages to teachers and support staff as well, providing school kits to both students and teachers, including simple basic things such as pens, pencils, erasers, notebooks, and supporting teacher training capacity building through the Ministry of Education. Lastly, to improve the educational infrastructure of schools. A total of 32 schools have been built in Baghdad and Ghor thus far, and 6 more will be constructed in the year to come. Construction is paired with classroom kits so that schools receive desks, chairs, blackboards, basic necessities to equip the classrooms. As you can see from the enrollment numbers displayed, World Vision, with the support of the Department of Agriculture, has dramatically increased enrollment over the last 4 years. How are these numbers linked to increased food security? Each child receives a monthly take-home package based on 70% attendance. The food package includes rice, lentils, and vegetable oils. So for example, in 2007, over 75,000 families received a monthly take-home ration. Against the context of the 2007 drought and the current severe winter that Afghanistan is experiencing, this take-home ration will be critical in this upcoming school year. World Vision supports the professional development of Ministry of Education master trainers and teacher educators by bringing in professional trainers from Kabul to teach innovative curriculums designed in partnership with Children in Crises, a UK-based international NGO. Curriculums are designed to be taught with low-cost materials, using simple items such as rocks, beans, sticks, bricks. Teachers not only learn basic mathematical skills, but innovative ways to engage Afghan children in learning these skills. Master trainers and teacher educators subsequently educate teachers. Health and hygiene directly impact food utilization and nutrition. In Afghanistan, poor hygiene causes widespread cases of worms among school-aged children, while extremely hot summer months cause dehydration. In combination, these 2 factors lead to illness and very often death in young children in rural Afghanistan. Additionally, poor nutrition and a lack of diverse food lead to anemia and other vitamin deficiencies. To address these concerns, World Vision provides health and hygiene education, deworming medicines, oral rehydration salts, and vitamins. Afghanistan has one of the lowest rates of literacy in the world. Only 1 in 10 Afghan women can read. World Vision funds literacy classes for women who have never learned to read, write, or do math. While women learn these skills, they're also taught how to properly store and handle food, how to care for themselves, and how to care for their children. One participant remarked, "With education, I'm able to help my children. When I can read and write, I can help them. When they have questions or homework, I can do something. When they're little, who can help them if I cannot?" I'm sorry. Anyway, that's fine. Again, how does this relate to food security? Research has shown that an educated woman is more likely to delay marriage and childbirth, immunize her children, and understand the nutritional needs of her family. Higher education levels correlate with improved levels of child survival and development, with infant and child mortality rates among the highest in the world in Afghanistan. Educating women is a key to any development effort in Afghanistan. And lastly, as I mentioned in the beginning, educational infrastructure, 32 schools in the last 4 years, 6 more in the upcoming school year, and paired with classroom kits. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Laura. I think that all 3 of these organizations are just indicative of the great work that's being done right now by many PVOs under the Food for Progress and Food for Education program. I know that these 3 organizations could cite many more examples of programs that are running in other countries, but I think we'll take time now to allow you to ask some questions. I think we have some time. So let's take some questions from the audience. Yes.
Yes, sir. What is the USDA's or the U.S. government's openness in general to working in countries that are politically hostile to the United States, like, for example, North Korea, especially if the food aid in some circumstances is best or most effectively delivered by completely avoiding any contact with the government?
I trust that everybody can hear the question. Right now, we're not providing the program in North Korea, or not operating any of our programs in North Korea, but we go through a screening process looking at figures like UNICEF's child nutrition. We look at our education levels, literacy rates. We look at income levels. Both these programs have screens that are built in to establish criteria where we operate the programs. There's a different set of criteria for operating the Food for Education program as there is for Food for Progress. We end up publishing the list of countries that are eligible to participate. That's usually done in April, May, in conjunction with our International Food Aid Conference, which is coming up April 14, 15, and 16 in Kansas City. We encourage all of you to attend that have an interest in international humanitarian work. It's jointly sponsored by U.S. Agency for International Development and our sister agency, the Farm Service Agency at USDA. But there will be close to 800 people there from the food aid community, all aspects of it, suppliers, everybody from bag manufacturers, shipping companies to many of you will be there, I know, that are involved in the food aid business. So, but at that conference, we always announce the criteria for the program. For the coming year, we announce the eligible countries, and unfortunately, North Korea is not one of the eligible countries right now. Other questions? Yes.
On the Planet Aid, where can we find the donation kiosks or?
If you give me your card, I can find one that's close to your house.
I mean, and also to share with other people, is that something that we?
Sure. Yes.
Is there a place to find a directory or something?
www.planetaid.org. You can find close locations to your house, but you can certainly call our main line and find out where the closest collection box is to you.
Okay. We have a question in the back.
Mark Harris from the United Methodist Church office. I just two quick points. One is to the person from the USDA. I'm concerned about these recent reports that came out from the last question about the number of the rising cost of food due to agriculture. And its impact is going to be felt greatest in the developing world than in this country. Because I don't think we're going to allow people to just die on the streets in the United States from lack of food. At least I don't think that'll happen. So how are you, what's going on inside the U.S. government in its thinking? Because the reports now say that some countries will not even get any food aid. And then my second question is, how does the USDA work with AID on these food programs?
Okay. Let me just take a shot at the second question. We work very closely with USAID. We coordinate our planning through the Food Aid Policy Council, which Undersecretary Mark Keenum chairs. We just had a meeting about a month ago. So there is great coordination between NSC, Department of State, USDA, and U.S. Agency for International Development on programming coordination for international food aid programs. Regarding the question you asked about the impact of some of the events that are occurring right now in the global marketplace, I think, first of all, I need to remind folks that even though we've had a great surge in production of ethanol in the United States, it's used a lot of our corn, we've also experienced worldwide extremely tight production of many of our major commodities. We've suffered droughts in Australia. We've had problems in Europe last year with wheat production. We've had global production problems in many countries. Right now, our global wheat stocks are the tightest they've been in 30 years. The U.S. wheat stocks are the tightest they've been in 60 years. These are not phenomena that are necessarily attributable to any economic activity. We're doing some things that we think will be helpful. As Secretary Schaefer mentioned earlier in his comments, his opening comments about the commodity for the swap, for food for commodity swap program. We've been using surplus commodities that have come into the USDA's loan program, swapping those out for foodstuffs. 80% of that has gone to domestic feeding programs and 20% for international programs to help offset some of the cost increases due to high freight costs and high commodity costs. We also think that the higher commodity prices that are reflected around the world provide incentives for local farmers to increase their production. And this is not a bad thing. This is a good thing, where people are encouraged to start producing in places where they heretofore felt like they couldn't produce. One of the arguments we've had out of some of the countries, for instance, in the C4 cotton countries in Africa, is that U.S. cotton production depresses their price situation, whereas now with high prices, you can't argue that U.S. prices are providing a disincentive for local production in those countries. So anyway, we're aware of these issues, and one thing about it is that we have not been able to defy the law in economics that the best cure for high prices is high prices, and that we think that as a result of the high prices, it provides an incentive for people to go out, invest in the infrastructure and agriculture everywhere around the world, and the crops will be a result of it. We've got questions here.
Carl Mazza from Meeting Ground in Cecil County, Maryland. I just had a general question about the Food for Progress program, which I don't know much about. And Beth, you mentioned it. You were kind of that the food is monetized and the money goes to help. How does that process work? How is the food monetized?
We receive a grant from the Department of Agriculture. Prior to this, we've done an intensive market analysis which identifies the commodity that can be best applicable to that country and identifies the price for that commodity. So even before we are awarded the commodity itself, both USDA and recipient organizations have done a rather detailed market analysis of what is best used there. After that, it is shipped to the country. Then we, as an organization, work to sell that commodity in the country itself. And some organizations, they work with different commodity people, individuals who will work to sell that commodity. We do not. We have the in-house capacity to do that ourselves. And then we work to get, it's a fair and open process. We submit tenders within the country in which we're working, and we have a competitive bid process. And the highest bid, much like here, will be awarded the commodity.
Okay, we've got time for one more question. This gentleman back here had his hand up.
John Penbody, the Christian Medical Association. I wonder if any of the panelists could describe the role of medical professionals in your programs, and if they're not involved, how might they be involved?
Sure, I can take that. Specifically in Afghanistan, we have a strong health and hygiene program, and we work with the Ministry of Education to do that, and we work with other NGOs as well. So we would hire like a public health specialist to actually help design those curriculums and work with the ministries. So there's no medical itself, but the health and hygiene and the awareness raising is, I think, how most of these programs would incorporate medical knowledge and skills. Yeah.
George, you want to comment?
Yeah, if I can add to this. Well, the program that we implemented in Lebanon, I'd like to say that we were able to bring the two ministries of education and health to work together. Before, they were not able to work together. And we formed like a national unity committee. And from this committee, a certain manual was produced, and we also financed this manual to be printed and to be used by all schools. And now every child in Lebanon will have, every school, public schools, will have a physician come to the school, examine the children, and we help them also computerize the system where any data that they get from a child, it would be entered in the computer and it would be sent to the Ministry of Education Central department to be able to process the data and find out if there is a certain major illness somewhere, then they can follow up on that. So this is what the program did.
Well, I want to close out by thanking Beth and George and Laura for their contribution to the panel this afternoon, and turn it back over to Jed. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. Well, the need is great, but we have some tremendous allies in this work, and hope you come away feeling that way. Each one of the panelists, the government officials you heard, the colleagues sitting near you, and many others as well. We were reminded of that in our office. We got a call from Ambassador Gadi Vasquez, who's the U.S. representative to the UN in Rome. He's someone, as many of you know, that really champions an awareness of hunger issues. He was actually just describing how he's been leading journalists out on trips into countries all over the world, trying to expose them to the face of hunger. As Robert was talking about, it's an entirely different thing when you see that firsthand, and it begins to shape the rest of your life when you really come to terms with the need. One other person I want to thank is Erin White. She is the director of the Faith-Based and Community Initiative at the U.S. Department of Agriculture, and so that means working with all of the different programs within the Department of Agriculture to try to drive this vision, the impulse towards partnering with the local groups, the large nonprofits that have the capabilities to reach into communities, and then often as intermediaries reach down to the smaller groups that are there day in and day out on the front lines. So she really played a central role in making this happen today. So thank you, Erin. Well, as I said at the beginning, I very much desire that you go away feeling a fresh sense of burden and a fresh sense of hope. So much ache in this world, so much hunger, and yet so many people on the front lines, real responses making a real difference. And we're doing that together. So thank you very much. Final round of applause for all our panelists and for yourselves. Could the panelists come up on the stage? Someone had requested of me that they all come up for a photograph. Maybe Erin had asked that. So all the panelists, please come on up.